Once inspections are complete, the vehicle is ready for operation. When entering and exiting the vehicle, face inward toward the steps and handholds while maintaining three-point contact with the vehicle at all times. Always keep steps and handholds in good repair and free of things such as grease, mud, dirt, fuel, ice, and snow. Before stepping or walking on any surface, check to ensure that the surface has a slip-resistant feature. Any surface on the apparatus that has been designed as a stepping or walking surface will have a slip-resistant feature. The front bumper extension has a diamond pattern with a knurled finish embossed on its surface and is intended for stepping or walking. The top edge of the bumper is not meant to be a stepping surface and does not have a slip-resistant feature. Step over the bumper edge, placing your foot onto the diamond plate when mounting the bumper extension. If no extension exists, or if it is too narrow for a foothold, use a stepladder or other safe means to access the windshield. Never step or walk on any surface such as the cab roof, air conditioner covers, hose rollers, or any other surface that does not have a slip-resistant feature. Pierce offers an option for aluminum tread plate covering on the roofs of cabs and the tops of apparatus bodies to protect from tree limbs and other hazards. This covering should not be misrepresented as a standing or walking surface. Always use the 3 points of contact method when above street level. If there is no handhold or secure feature to grip, use a ladder, stepping stool, or other safe means to access the apparatus. Folding steps on the back wall of the cab, as well as grab handles on the roof of the cab, may be used to access hose storage or simply for gaining a higher vantage point for surveying the surroundings. These steps are not intended to provide access to the cab roof for standing or walking. Use caution on exterior stepping or walking surfaces during wet or icy conditions. Even the most aggressive non-slip surface can be hazardous when wet or covered with ice. Climbing anywhere on the vehicle should always be performed by maintaining 3 points of contact, being 1 hand and 2 feet, or 2 hands and 1 foot at all times while ascending or descending. Use steps, handholds, or sturdy features on the apparatus only. Do not grasp or step on items not appropriate for climbing, such as inlets, outlets, control handles, hose reels, or any object not firmly attached to the apparatus. Be certain that folding steps are firmly engaged in the weight-bearing position before placing full weight on the step. Give the steps a moment to stow before moving the vehicle. Once in the cab, always wear a seatbelt. DOT studies found that occupants are 22 times more likely to be ejected from the cab during a rollover if they are not wearing a seatbelt, and 25 times more likely to die if ejected from the cab. Never ride in any vehicle unless properly restrained in a seating position with a seatbelt. Seatbelts provide the best restraint when the seat back is upright, with the driver sitting upright and not slouching. Knees should be straight forward. The lap belt should be snug and low on the hips, and the shoulder belt snug against the chest. In certain apparatus configurations, the seatbelt retractor may not retract the belt quickly or completely enough to prevent it from being caught in the door. In these instances, it is necessary for the belt to be placed manually inside the door before it is closed. The unique conditions of fire service application put stress and strain on seatbelt assemblies, not normally seen in typical automotive applications. It is important to inspect and maintain seatbelt webbing to ensure that it will function properly in a crash. Webbings can be abraded by interference with door hardware, bunker gear attachments, SCBA harnesses, etc. It is important to establish a regimen of seatbelt inspection. Certain apparatus are equipped with the optional SRP or side roll protection package. If an apparatus with SRP rolls to the side, the seat belts in the non-folding seats will retract. The driver's suspension seat will drop, and side airbags at the driver and officer locations will inflate. These features will reduce the risk of injury during a side roll or a frontal crash. Side roll and/or frontal occupant protection is only effective if occupants are wearing their seatbelts. Firefighters have been seriously injured in apparatus accidents when unbelted. It is unsafe to don firefighting gear or perform other operations in an unbelted state while the vehicle is in motion. Apparatus equipped with frontal occupant protection will deploy an airbag for the driver and a knee bag for the officer in the event of a frontal crash. The suspension seat will pull down and the seatbelt will pre-tension. Keep hands and other objects out of the deployment path of airbags and away from seat suspension parts and seat belt retraction devices. Read and follow all warnings in the operation manual. Inflatable restraints are not designed to protect children. Transport children in rear seating positions only. Never wear your helmet while driving or riding. NFPA 1901 states that fire helmets shall not be worn by persons riding in enclosed driving and crew areas. Fire helmets are not designed for crash protection, and they will interfere with the protection provided by headrests. The extra weight of a fire helmet can cause serious neck injuries in a crash. If helmets are to be stored in the driving or crew compartment, the helmets must be secured in an NFPA-compliant compartment or holder. Equipment in the cab must be secured. NFPA standards specify that all equipment required to be used during an emergency response shall be securely fastened. Equipment not needed during the response must be secured to 9Gs. Items not secured can injure or kill during a crash. SCBA harnesses are often manufactured using nylon straps and buckles that look like seatbelts. Take care not to mistake one for the other. Check all SCBA harnesses to ensure that they are not interchangeable with the seatbelt buckles and that all firefighters are trained to become aware of this danger. Make sure that either the SCBA bottle or parade panel is in place before riding in the seat. It is designed to work with one or the other. Many SCBA bracket-equipped seats include movable headrests that allow the SCBA bottle to be removed without interference with the headrest. To reduce the risk of head injury during a collision, movable headrests must be placed in the closed position while the vehicle is in motion. Suspension-style seats must be adjusted individually for each occupant to maintain adequate head clearance while the vehicle is in motion. Adjust the seat for your weight so that the seat is riding midway between the top and bottom of its suspension travel. The driver should never adjust his or her seat while the vehicle is moving. The PS6 driver's seat will adjust automatically, placing the driver in the middle of the suspension travel without the need for action by the occupant. Adjust the horizontal and vertical seat position for comfortable reach to the pedals and steering wheel. Check the placard in the cab to determine maximum seating and never exceed this limit. Do not use seats equipped for stationary operation while driving. Only use seats with seat belts. Once seated and belted into the vehicle, the driver should adjust the side mirrors, ensuring they are secure and in proper working order. Adjust the steering column only when the vehicle is stopped. Check for looseness, pulling, and strange noises. Report anything strange to a qualified mechanic. If so equipped, adjust the accelerator and brake pedal to provide the optimum comfort while driving. Locate all emergency stop buttons and switches. Identify the controls that will drop the engine to idle and practice using them. After starting the vehicle, your Pierce Custom chassis utilizes its quick build-up feature that allows the pressure to be built up in the rear brake section first to enable release of the parking brakes, even though the front brake section may not have sufficient air pressure to enable sustained or full-force braking. This feature allows the vehicle to be driven as soon as possible in the event of an emergency. However, use extreme caution when operating the vehicle with either air brake section charged below 60 psi. Once sufficient air pressure has been built up in the rear brake section, the parking brakes may be released. These spring brakes located on the rear axle are intended to hold the vehicle in a parked position or to assist in bringing it to an emergency stop, and should not be used for normal driving. All Pierce apparatus are equipped with parking brakes on the rear axles that will hold on a 20% grade, that is, a slope with 20 feet of rise for every 100 feet of run, when the brakes are correctly adjusted and the lining material is well burnished. Never rely solely on the parking brakes. When parking on a grade, always block wheels and turn the front wheels completely in the direction of the curb. Never attempt to disassemble a spring brake chamber, as the release of a powerful spring could result in severe personal injury or death. Whether it be an engine retarder, transmission brake, driveline brake, or exhaust brake, you should make sure you know which brakes are available on your vehicle and how to operate them. Never use an auxiliary braking system that turns on when you let off the throttle in slippery weather. This will cause the rear wheels to lock up and initiate loss of vehicle control. Optional auxiliary front wheel lock uses brake system air pressure to keep front brakes applied for more stability during equipment operation. Only use the front wheel lock when the engine is running, the parking brake is applied, and the driver operator is present to make sure the engine continues to run. Make sure compartment doors are closed before driving the vehicle. Open doors can hit, injure, and cause damage as objects fall out of the compartments. All occupants must be seated and belted while the vehicle is in motion, and never ride on the rear steps or other areas outside the cab. When backing up, always use a spotter to avoid property damage. The spotter should keep himself and others clear of the vehicle's path. Driving a fire truck safely requires constant attention and focus by the driver. Provide the driver with an officer or other personnel who can perform non-driving related functions during an emergency response. In addition to the inherent dangers of heavy vehicle operation, special attention should be paid while driving tankers. While only 3% of all fire apparatus are tankers, they account for 22% of firefighter deaths related to driving. A tanker's high center of gravity, combined with the sudden shift of water to the outside of a turn, increases the risk that the vehicle will tip. Slow down before a turn or curve to avoid sudden braking inside the turn. Accelerate slightly when driving through the turn. 66% of all rollovers occur when the right front tire drops off of the road. If the right front tire drops off the roadway, drive straight ahead, reduce speed to 15 miles per hour, and then make a gradual return to the road. If necessary, bring your tanker to a stop and then drive back onto the roadway. If your vehicle is equipped with all-steer, all-wheel steering, you should know that it changes vehicle handling, particularly on slippery roads from rain, snow, or ice. Never drive a vehicle equipped with the all-steer option in any all-steer mode until you have read and understand the operator's manual, have been trained by experienced all-steer operators, and have enough behind-the-wheel experience to drive all-wheel steering with skill. ABS anti-lock brakes are used to prevent wheel lock and control the vehicle during braking in wet, icy, or snowy conditions, or during sudden panic stops. ABS will not improve stopping distances or conventional braking. It will only attempt to control the angle of the vehicle through the skid. You still need to drive slower on wet or slippery pavement. To operate ABS properly, do not pump the brakes. Apply steady brake pedal pressure. The optional Electronic Stability Control System, or ESC, is designed to stabilize the vehicle during cornering maneuvers. ESC checks where you are steering and where the vehicle is actually going. ESC applies the brakes at individual wheels and intervenes in the engine management system to stabilize the vehicle. ESC is not a substitute for safe driving practices. Factors including speed, road conditions, and driver steering input can all affect whether ESC will be effective in preventing a loss of control. It is still your responsibility to drive and corner at reasonable speeds and to leave a sufficient margin of safety. When refueling, use only ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel. Never add gasoline, gasohol, alcohol, or other volatile substances to diesel fuel. Mixing any of these fuels will create an extreme fire and explosive hazard. Another note about diesel fuel. Diesel engines run as long as fuel is available. This includes its ability to run off of the heavy vapors from a fuel spill or gas leak. In fact, with access to these vapors, engine speed could increase out of control, and even the off ignition or battery switch will not be able to shut the engine down. The vehicle should only be operated in heavy vapors if it is equipped with an air intake shutoff option and the driver remains present to operate the shutoff option. If your apparatus is equipped with a 2007 or later model diesel engine, it will experience periodic regeneration of the diesel particulate filter. During this event, exhaust gases will be abnormally hot even if the engine is not running under load. Exhaust parts get extremely hot without warning. Keep away from exhaust gas. Do not touch exhaust pipes or parts, as the hot metal and gas will burn your skin. If your apparatus is equipped with a 2010 or later model diesel engine, it may be equipped with Selective Catalytic Reduction, or SCR. This emissions reduction system uses diesel exhaust fluid, or DEF, which must be replenished periodically. Never fill the DEF tank with diesel fuel or the diesel tank with DEF. If you make this mistake, do not start the engine. Take the apparatus out of service and have the affected tank serviced. This will avoid serious engine and emission system damage that will otherwise result. Another safety concern when responding to a fire is the danger posed by flying embers. Diesel engines consume 1,200 cubic feet of air per minute when operating under full load. Hot embers can be sucked into the air intake and ignite the air cleaner element. Ember protection composed of mesh screens or perforated metal are not foolproof guarantees of protection. Make sure the boot and air filter is tight, with no gaps, to keep embers out of the air cleaner. If possible, position the vehicle away from hot embers. Never install tire chains on front tires. Chains can damage the steering system and cab, and can destroy the braking system. When using a winch, make only straight winch pulls, and never use a snatch block to double cable back to the vehicle. This can cause injury, death, or at the very least, damage to the bumper or winch mount.